Today is Monday, the 30th of October 2023, and Halloween is upon us once again. Now, you'd be forgiven for thinking that Halloween originated in America, but in fact, Halloween wasn't recorded until 1911. The history of Halloween is thought to have influences of Christian beliefs and practices. The word Halloween actually comes from All Hallows Eve. People practice the Christian custom of souling on Halloween, a Celtic festival believed to have pagan roots, medieval England. Halloween is a celebration that takes place every 31st of October, dedicated to remember the dead. Halloween activities include trick-or-treating, ducking apples, and ghost stories. The story I'm about to tell you has been told many times, but is still worth documenting and sharing. My family and I live at this large 3-storey property called Gladstone Villa in a former mining town in Wales, just 17 miles from Cardiff, and we experienced things that simply defied rational explanation. We had very mild poltergeist activity, like lights going off and on, the occasional sighting, but whatever it was, occupied itself in the main bedroom. Now, my mother said that it all started off in the main bedroom and from the attic. My family heard this noise and they all went upstairs thinking that it was a break-in, but they only saw the hatch to the door open. They didn't think much of it, but it continued. There was footsteps in the bedroom every evening, sometimes during the day, and the family would be downstairs watching television. My grandfather Bill would turn the television down to hear it more clearly. And as I got older, I heard it for myself. Now, when I was a baby, I was too young to remember it, but my mother said my pillow was ripped right in half. There was brown coaxial cables being pulled from the television by unseen forces, and this would annoy my grandfather sometimes. And as I said, the lights were going off and on. Now, this could have been electrical faults, but I don't know. My mother Caroline saw the full solid figure of a monk standing behind the sofa. Now, I didn't see this. My grandfather and I and my grandmother was reading a book. I was watching television. And yeah, she described it later as a typical monk with a brown habit and hood over the face, so she didn't see his face. And on another occasion, she saw a ghost again. I remember it was during the daytime. I was in the room, the door was open, so it obscured the view of the hallway, and my mother just so happened to go over to the sofa, looked to her left, and she had a curious look on her face, as if she saw something. She later said that she saw the face of an old man with white wavy hair. To this day, I do not know who that was. Even the monk didn't make any sense at the time. So anyway, it carried on, and they realised that there was something going on there was something wrong. Even though the local police was involved, 2 young policemen, and they looked into the attic. They only popped their head in there, they wouldn't go in straight away, because they were afraid. They were 2 young policemen. Yeah, and they said, I'm wondering if it's Andrew's father playing pranks from the bakehouse. But of course he wasn't. There's far too many incidents to remember at all and to say here and now. But on one occasion, my grandmother Rita went into the bedroom because the activity would mainly take place in the bedroom, the main bedroom. And she went to get my grandfather up, and she said, get up. And when she said that, the boiler door swung open. She didn't wait to see what it was, she just soon darted out of that room. On another occasion in that room, my father worked night shift, so he'd sleep during the day, and my mother went to get him up for work. Well, obviously to have his food first, and then, but she saw his slippers thrown outside the landing floor. So anyway, she opened the door and she had an astonishing sight to see the ironing board placed on his body. And he woke up and astonished and said something unrepeatable, because his children watching, I won't use the exact word. But yeah, that's quite true. That is really true. My grandfather had a friend, a family friend, Fred Davis. Now, he worked at the local colliery together. Fred would come up every evening almost, and he would smoke cigarettes, homemade cigarettes. He would wear glasses and a flat cap. I still remember him now. Yeah. There was a time when we was all, again in the night time, I was just playing quietly with my toys by the sideboard. Fred was sat by his favourite chair by the fireside, by the open fire. And all of a sudden, there was a loud bang coming from the ceiling. It was so loud that Fred ducked his head. And he later said, when it was all quiet, I thought it was coming through. And they all went upstairs and they could find nothing to account for that noise. There was another time in that bedroom where I was in there. I was only a child at the time. This was in the 1970s. I was facing the window. The light was on. I made sure of that. It was quiet. And all of a sudden I felt what felt like something jump on the bed, pounce on the bed. I heard the springs going, you know, and obviously being a child I was too scared to look straight away. But when I did, there was nothing there. I went downstairs to tell my family, and we went back up to look, and we saw 3 distinctive paw marks on the bed. That is true. That is really true. Ivy was a skeptic. Ivy France was a family friend, more of a friend to my grandmother. Ivy was, by then, in the 1970s, was in her 50s, and she liked playing bingo at the local bingo hall near Gladstone Villa. But anyway, she came up to see us, and I can remember her still now going into the bedroom, in the main bedroom, and saying, "Oh, it's vibration from the traffic outside causing it." Strong Welsh accent she had. But she was soon to change her mind, and that's when she got the local priest involved, and he came along and blessed the property, and after a few prayers he left, and it was quiet for a little while after that. But also a medium came there as well, and he asked the family questions like, how long has it been going on? Do you smoke things you shouldn't? But at one point he tapped the ceiling, and whatever it was knocked on the ceiling back at him. The poltergeist activity was mild, considering it wasn't like what you see in the movies. That is far, far too exaggerated and gets the Hollywood treatment. But yes, he went into a trance, but he failed to get a name. But what he did say was, there's definitely a presence here, and it has unfinished business, and it didn't complete what it had done in life. So anyway, he sealed up the bedroom, and obviously after he put powder on the floor, and said, "Nobody go in this room," he said, "until I come back." So he returned the following morning, and we went into the bedroom, and sure enough, there was footprints on the floor. Now, obviously, like my father said, one of us could have gone in there and made those tracks, but I certainly didn't. Now, I didn't witness anything myself personally, but because I was in school, I lived relatively normal life. It was I'd go up for school, come back, and wave it into the Andrew and that sort of thing. So I didn't witness everything. Like the milk bottle that was thrown towards my grandfather Bill. He went upstairs into that bedroom again, and he saw it hurtling towards him, missing him by inches, and he came down, and I still remember now to this day the broken bottle in his hand, like that, in both of his hands, like that. And that is true. There was just a number of things. Fred Davis was looking out the window with my grandfather Bill, and he said he felt something pass him. It wasn't wind either. At one point, my grandfather and my mother claimed to have heard a baby crying there. Now, I didn't hear this myself personally, so it didn't make any sense to me, so I discarded that. But when I did my research many years later, I discovered that a baby died there, and his name was Elvin Kimiet. He was 4 months old. Tragic. It was the funeral was strictly a private affair. So there we are. I found that out in the Western Mail. There's far too many things to say. We had to go so long that my grandmother, Rita, gave her a nickname. She called it Johnny. And my grandfather, Bill, would mock it by shouting to the ceiling, "Johnny-O!" to try and get a reaction, but nothing would happen. My grandmother liked watching soap operas and songs of praise on the Sunday. She loved Coronation Street, but when she watched songs of praise, it would start worse than ever. And we had a family friend, Derek. I won't say his full name because he's still around now. He painted the door green. My mother was cooking sausages in the kitchen, and the noise would begin again. And Derek would stop and listen. He said, "I'm determined to finish this," and he did. So that was another one. There were signs on the wall, like a square. Maybe it was trying to communicate, I do not know. But I've basically covered here everything I can remember. Because we left in June 1978, when 2 local businessmen bought the property, and it was eventually converted into a hotel. It was called Reds Park Hotel, and I had my 40th birthday in there. And David McBurney said that they heard things and experienced things from room 5. And then I told them about the history of when I lived there. Now that's when I started my research. I discovered that there was a monastery nearby, and directly opposite was the Raffle Club, because this Gladstone Villa stood ominously over the street and of the other houses and stuff. And this Raffle Club was one of the oldest buildings in town, dating back to the 15th century. Now, they were said to have a priesthood in there, and there was a monastery nearby in Baldwin Street, where incidentally my parents met at the bakehouse. And it apparently has tunnels under there, leading to a sympathetic dwelling in a local village 3 miles away, and the Caerphilly Manor. Many of you would know of Caerphilly, but that explains the monk. And then I discovered there was a family that lived there, a newly married couple, Evelyn and Michael Kimiet. They were married in 1923, and they had a baby early in 1924, and sadly he died tragically. Now obviously Evelyn was devastated, and the father firmly said, "This is a strictly private affair," and he was buried, the funeral was private, and he was buried in Bedwellty Church. Yeah, so that is that. And I've been called a liar in previous videos. I know who said it. The comment was eventually removed, but I am still telling the truth. Yeah, I'll give you a clue. She's an actor. The name of the person is a woman, obviously, who said I was a liar. Andrew Dexter's the biggest liar in town. She said, "Oh," but then, well, I won't say her name, but I'll give you a clue. The actress, she shares the name of an actress who plays a character in Emmerdale. That's all I'm saying. But that is it. This is the Celtic Druid. Over and out.